Welcome, welcome, welcome to you all. I am Hank Philippi Ryan, and I am so happy to welcome you all here today to this edition of The Back Room. We are so glad, Karen Dion and I, my co-host, are so glad that you have found us here. I'm Hank Philippi Ryan, as I said, the host for this session, the USA Today bestselling author of 14 going on 15 novels of suspense. My newest book, The House Guest, is casually displayed on the door behind me, because that's what you do, is put your book cover on the door. And my new book comes out called One Wrong Word, comes out in February. It's sort of scandal meets Suits, greed, gossip, and revenge. So we'll talk about that someday, but not today. But what we wanted to do was give you a chance to talk up close and Zoom personal with all these wonderful authors. And let me introduce them to you now. Our first author is Andrea Bartz. Andrea is a Brooklyn-based journalist and the New York Times best-selling author of We Were Never Here, The Lost Night, The Herd, and the forthcoming novel, The Spare Room. And I want you to ask Andrea about the video that you put on Instagram about your worst reviews for this book, because every single one of them made me want to run out and buy it right now. It was absolutely fantastic. Her work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Vogue, and many other outlets, and she's held editorial positions at Glamour, Psychology Today, and Self, among other publications. She loves writing feminist psychological suspense about complicated women. Welcome, Andy. Welcome to the Back Room.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
Our next author is Greaney, the #1 New York Times bestseller of the Gray Man series, the most recent of which, Burner, was released in February of 2023. Okay, hold that up. Good. Good, hold it up, because people want to see the books. They do. We hear this all the time. He is also the author or co-author of 7, do you not know which one? Okay. He is also the author or co-author of 7 Tom Clancy Jack Ryan novels, as well as the co-author of Red Metal with Hunter Ripley Rawlings, and the author of Armored, a Josh Duffy novel. Mark lives and works in Memphis, Tennessee, and has just come back from Thriller Fest as well. So a lot of intrepid traveling. We're glad that you got home safely. Was it fun?
Oh, it was a really good year. It was a fun year. There are a lot of people who weren't there that I would have loved to have seen, but that's going to happen every year. But we had a great time.
And were you the host of the banquet?
I was the MC of the banquet, which means you make up 2 dumb jokes and then you read what they ask you to read. It's not that hard. It was fun, though. It's a lot of fun.
You know, you got rave reviews, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
And it is hard. You know that it is hard. So you did fabulously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On everything. Our next, I almost said contestant, panelist is Nick Medina. Born in Chicago, Nick Medina has gone in search of Resurrection Mary, The Italian Bride, and The Devil Baby, and other Windy City ghosts. An enthusiast of local and native lore. I was just too long at Thriller Fest. His debut novel, Sisters of the Lost Nation, hold that up, good, features several supernatural myths and legends. In addition to exploring haunted cemeteries, he enjoys playing guitar, rock concerts, and spending time with his family. His debut novel, Sisters of the Lost Nation, hold that up again. That cover is beautiful, Nick. It's beautiful. It came out in April. Are you pleased with that? When you saw that, what did you think?
Oh yeah, I loved it from the start. I mean, we made some tweaks to it as we went along, but overall, I don't have any complaints about it at all.
It's gorgeous. Well, congratulations on your debut novel. Karen and I love having debut authors.
Thank you so much.
And our fourth author tonight, Katherine Reay, is the nationally best-selling and award-winning author of several novels, including The Printed Letter Bookshop, The London House, and A Shadow in Moscow. Katherine has also written one nonfiction work, okay, hold that up, Awful Beautiful Life. She holds a BA and MS from Northwestern University and, after living all across the country and abroad, currently resides outside Chicago. When not writing, Katherine hosts the What the Dickens Book Club on Facebook and weekly chats with authors and booksellers at the 10-minute book talk on Instagram, which I can tell you is riveting and fabulous. When I was on, I said, you can't get all that in 10 minutes. And she said, what? You do, don't you?
We do. We talk fast.
I'm just not used to talking fast, as I'm sure.
You did beautifully, though.
It's a wonderful show, terrific show. But if she's really lucky, she says in her bio, you'll find her fly fishing and hiking in Montana. So
That's where I am right now.
who you are now.
I'm in Montana at the moment. Yeah.
We will start, as always, with our fabulous almost 20 questions. And I will ask the questions in the order that I see you on the screen. And that means, Andrea, you are first.
Okay.
Andy, what was your first job?
My very first job was at a coffee shop. I was 16. Well, I'm sure I babysat and stuff like that, but where I actually got a paycheck, I was 16 years old and I ran this coffee shop by myself in like a strip mall while I was there, which in retrospect, I'm like, why did anyone let me do that? But yeah, like it was a pretty quiet little strip mall. So friends would come by and I would like take stuff out of the bakery, rack and chop it up and let us eat it and say that I put it out as samples. And it was a great job while it lasted, but the writing was on the wall. This place closed pretty quickly.
But it does teach you how to deal with people, and it teaches you how to keep people happy and how to make a good work environment and responsibility.
Yeah, customer service. I was handling money. I was, solely in charge of taking care of the place while I was there. So it's only as an adult that I'm like, 16-year-olds shouldn't be running entire businesses by themselves unsupervised. That wasn't a great idea.
But it's a good experience. I worked at the Dairy Queen in Zionsville, so it was all equally a good experience for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Nick, what was your favorite book as a child?
That's a tough one. I don't remember a specific favorite, but I had a collection of books that I really enjoyed when I was very small. I don't know if anyone remembers the series called the Serendipity books. They were published, I think, throughout the 80s and 90s. And, each book was about a different creature. It might have been a fantastical creature or a, real life creature you could find in the zoo. And each one had its own message or lesson to be learned. And so I used to collect those every time the school fair would come around. I'd get a couple different stories from the Serendipity collection, and I still have them on my bookshelf. So I'd have to go with that, more of a collection rather than a single book.
Why were they called the Serendipity books?
I'm not sure if it was the first book, but there is a book about a creature named Serendipity, and it's kind of like almost like a water monster, except it's pink and not scary. It's kind of a friendly creature, and her name was Serendipity.
That's so sweet. I love that you still have them.
Yeah, I was just looking at them the other day too.
That's really cute. Mark, do you have a favorite pet that you remember?
Oh gosh, if you ask anybody that knows me, my favorite pet is the dog that I have now. His name is Lobo. We have 4 dogs, my wife and I, but I've had Lobo since he was about 3 months old. He's 12 now, getting up in years. But everybody thinks I have an absolutely way too much love for this dog. It's like I got home from New York today and I was on the floor with him and, trying to use a free hand to pet the other dogs while I'm giving like 98% of the attention to a Lobo, which is really not fair. But he's just, he's been with me through thick and thin. So he's the dog I have right now is my dog for life.
What is the best thing that he does?
Well, so Lobo has a ton of anxiety. So I feel like the best thing he does is requires me to be like really calm and easygoing with him. So instead of him being my support animal, I'm sort of his support animal. But he's such a good dog.
That's great. We'll give him a hug from us.
I will.
And our final question to Katherine is, what's the best thing that happened to you today?
The best thing that happened to me today. I planted a garden. Honestly, it was so much fun. Out here in Montana, the weeds were everywhere, and we pulled up all the weeds and we planted the vegetables and stuff. And it was bright sunshine, and it was really a glorious couple hours. So that was the best thing that happened.
Vegetables or flowers?
Vegetables so far. Perhaps if I can pull up more weeds tomorrow, there'll be a space for flowers, but the weeds are really out of control. But
that means it's good soil. So that's a
really good soil. The weeds are loving the soil.
That's great. Well, that's a good thing for today. Wonderful. That's great. Okay. You have so many comments, you all. Everybody has been chatting as you have been talking. Jeffrey Higgins says, you can't love a dog too much. And Betsy says Ben and Jerry's non-dairy ice cream is delicious. I mean, you come for this. You know, Karen Dion says, I want Nick's Little House. And NC Bosch says, very cool, Mark. Christina's saying no cheese. I'm sorry, but there are other good, things. And Dasha says, love Andrea's book. So go look at the chat when you get a moment, because there's a lot of adulation and a lot of admiration for you all. So speaking of adulation and admiration, we ask our guests always to not only talk about their books, but to recommend a book that they wish you would read. And we have told them about that in advance. And I hope that they brought the books with them. I know they did. So each of you in turn will tell us a little bit about the book that you love. And Andy, we will start with you.
Great. So I was very excited to tell everybody about The Writing Retreat, which is by a new author named Julia Bartz, who happens to be my older sister. But even if she weren't, I would absolutely recommend this book. It's, you know, when she was working on it, she kept referring to it as feminist horror. And then once the book actually sold, it was sort of marketed as a thriller, like a feminist thriller. But I think it sort of straddles the line. It's about a writing retreat gone very, very wrong. And it's twisty, it's immersive, it's completely addictive. And if this is what you like, then you'll love it. It is very, very effed up. It is a seriously effed up story. That's all I'll say.
Great. Nick, what are you recommending?
My recommendation came out earlier this year. It's called The Shards. It's by Bret Easton Ellis. And it's written in Ellis's really unique style. He's writing about himself. It's a fictionalized memoir of his last year in high school, and it's kind of a crazy story. There's a serial killer. It's 1980s. It's got drugs and alcohol, and it's all about these rich kids in their final year of high school. And it's not even the situations within the story are kind of creepy and not very wholesome, but at the same time, I didn't want to leave their world. For some reason, I was just completely caught up in it. And by the time I was getting to the end of the book, I found myself reading slower and only reading a few pages a day because I didn't want it to end. That's how much I was enjoying it. So highly recommend it. Check it out if you haven't already.
That is really the mark of a terrific book, when you just don't want it to end. Not very wholesome. I kept imagining that as on the cover. Mark, what book are you recommending?
Well, there were so many good books, but this is one that I've read recently that blew me away. And you know how there's a lot of books. It's Heat 2 by Michael Mann and Meg Gardner. There's a lot of those books that you're waiting for, you're anticipating when they come out. You just read them cover to cover. But this wasn't that for me at all. I had no knowledge of this book or anything. Someone sent it to me. Don Winslow sent it to me. And I looked at it, and it just kind of sat on a shelf for months. And I just picked it up one day. So I thought of it was just going to be like a movie tie-in to the movie Heat, or like what happens the next day after the movie Heat. And that didn't sound that interesting to me. And even though I really enjoyed that movie, I just didn't know that I wanted to commit to the time it takes to read a novel about it. And I picked it up and couldn't have been more engrossed and riveted. The story is like very multi-layered. The action is fantastic. The book just keeps moving throughout the whole thing. And I know it's sold to Hollywood, and they're talking about the character that Val Kilmer played in the first Heat. They're talking about Austin Butler, the guy who played Elvis, who did such a good job, might be in that role. And the whole time I was reading it, I was thinking like, this is a masterclass on how to write a really cool action book. And it was just a lot of fun.
So Katherine, what are you recommending?
Well, I've spent so much time in thrillers and action books and spy novels and Moscow and Berlin that when this came across my desk, it is the first sort of light read that had me laughing out loud. It is a rom-com with, thin novel, won't take you a lot of time, but it's poignant too. And I really, really enjoyed it. And as I said, the writing is fresh and it made me laugh out loud. And that's always an unexpected delight with a book. And I don't read many rom-coms, and I was enchanted. So Annabelle Moynihan's Nora Goes Off Script.
Wasn't that fun? We hope you enjoyed that taste of what a backroom session is like. But more fun comes immediately afterward. That's when the audience is broken up into 4 breakout rooms, and each author in turn visits each room. We'd love to show you what a breakout session is like, because those relaxed face-to-face conversations between best-selling authors and readers are the hallmark of backroom events. But breakout sessions are never recorded, because what's said in the back room stays in the back room.